This teriyaki salmon is easily one of the best meal prep recipes we've done on the channel. It is super easy to make and of course tastes absolutely incredible. Let's get straight into it. Alright, starting out we're going to need 900 grams of salmon. Skin on or off is completely fine, and you have the choice to either use 5 whole fillets, or you can do what I'm going to do and actually dice this up into nice large pieces, making sure that they're all of the same size. If you're obviously going to follow the way I'm doing it, this will be the exact recipe, but I will leave notes about the whole fillets in the description if you decide to go that way. Either way you do it, place the salmon into a bowl, then we're going to add in 1 tablespoon of corn flour. This is going to allow the teriyaki sauce to stick and also get a nice little crust onto the salmon. Season to taste with sea salt flakes, only a little bit though because we will be using soy sauce, and then just mix to combine until that salmon is coated in the corn flour. Now for a side for our salmon, this right here is 2 bok choys or pak choys. You can use any sort of Asian vegetable of your choice or even just broccoli and carrots. Just going to remove the roots from these and then separate the stems from the leaves. These cook at 2 different times, and with the stems these can just be sliced into even sized pieces. And as for the leaves, these can also just be shredded up and then just give both of these a wash separately. To flavour those Asian greens, we're going to need 1 clove of garlic and 5 grams of peeled ginger. Both of these can be run along a microplane or fine box grater at the same time. They're going to be added into the veg at the same time as well, so you can mix them together. Now to make our teriyaki sauce, into a small saucepan, add 60 milliliters of light soy sauce and 40 milliliters of dark soy sauce. This is going to add that nice deep, rich colour and a nice savoury note. 70 milliliters of both sake and mirin. These do contain alcohol. I'll leave details about that in the description if you want to substitute it. And then we're going to add in 15 grams of sugar, which is going to help caramelize it and get that nice caramelization on the salmon. Place this over a high heat and give it a stir just to get that sugar starting to melt. Then we're going to bring this to a boil, give it another stir, and then just reduce the heat to low and allow this to simmer away for 5 minutes. That's all we need to do. You don't really need to touch it at all. After 5 minutes, you have something that looks like this. We mainly just concentrated on the sugar melting. This can then be removed from the stovetop. Now I'm sure you've seen me do rice for many of the other meal preps, but we like to do it a little bit differently every single time, and this one's just going to be a nice basic one with a nice kaffir lime infusion. The ratios are 300 grams of jasmine rice, 500 milliliters of cold water, 4 kaffir lime leaves, like I said, for that nice infusion, and we're just going to hit this up with a nice sprinkle of sea salt flakes to taste. Once that's all done, we can then make our way over to a stovetop, place it over a high heat, just give it a quick stir just to break up any clumps, and then we're just going to bring this to a boil in the process. Once it is boiling, we're going to place on the lid, reduce the heat to low, and allow this to cook for 12 minutes undisturbed. With the rice doing its thing in the background, place a small pan over a high heat. We're going to add in 1 tablespoon of peanut oil. You can also use vegetable or olive oil if you want to. Get that nice and hot, and then we're going to add in the stems of that pak choy or bok choy, along with a small pinch of sea salt flakes, and then saute this for about 3 to 4 minutes, just until it's got a nice little golden colour on it and it's starting to soften up. This is also a really good time to practice the little flick of the wrist motion if you feel up to it. Now after 4 minutes we can add in the pak choy leaves. Like I said at the beginning, these will cook a lot faster, and we're also going to add in that garlic and ginger paste. With both of those in, just saute this for 1 minute, concentrating on breaking up that garlic and ginger paste so they can get infused and make the flavour of these taste absolutely incredible. After 1 minute, those greens will have started to wilt down a lot, like you can see here. We're going to then add in 1 teaspoon, which is 5 milliliters of sesame oil. Instantly turn this off the heat, just give this a quick mix around, and this can then be removed from the stovetop. Also, this right here is the macros for the pak choy and the weights per portion. Going back to the rice, this has now been doing its thing for 12 minutes. We can turn this off the heat, but leave the lid on for a final 8 minutes to finish off cooking. Whilst that's doing that, place another large pan over a high heat. We're going to add in 1.5 tablespoons, which is about 30 milliliters of peanut oil, vegetable oil, or olive oil. And then once this is hot, we're going to add in that salmon, carefully placing it in so it doesn't splash back at you, and then just spread this out so that it's not all sitting on top of one another, and just make sure nothing is stuck together from that corn flour. Now, like I said at the beginning, you have a choice to either dice it or leave these fillets whole. Because I've diced it, we're going to have to be very, very gentle with these, just because these are a very flaky fish, and if we break them up too much, they will literally just fall apart completely. As for this, all we want to do is slightly brown these off. We're going to cook it for about 2 minutes, that's all we need to do. This will continue to cook when we add the teriyaki sauce, and I'll leave all of the instructions about cooking these as whole fillets in the description. After 2 minutes, we have a nice slight browning on the salmon. We don't have to get it too dark, and it doesn't matter if there's a few little bits that have pink in them. We're then going to add in all of that teriyaki sauce that we made at the beginning. This is going to instantly boil, and then we're just going to allow this to cook for about 1 to 2 minutes. And during this time, this is going to reduce down and become really thick, literally penetrating that fish, getting the most incredible flavor out of everything. We also want to just occasionally mix this around, again being very gentle, just so we don't break up the fish. But with all of that done and you have a really nice thick sauce, that salmon looks absolutely beautiful, we can then remove this from the stovetop and just pop it aside to rest for a minute or so. Also, this is the macros right here for the teriyaki sauce and the salmon mixed together, and of course the portion weights. Going back to the rice again, it's been resting for 8 minutes with the lid on off the heat. We can remove the lid now and then remove those kaffir lime leaves as they've done their job infusing into the rice. Fluff this up with a fork or spatula just to break up any grains, making sure that it's nice and soft and fluffy, looking like this. This can then be removed from the stovetop, and these are the macros for the rice on their own, as well as the portion weights as well. Now, as for serving up, obviously I've left all of the details in those macro cards, but I like to just divide everything by 5, it makes it a lot easier. And I get asked this a lot, but the container sizes that I use are 750 milliliters, and if you are interested, they are in the description below. Be sure to gently place in the salmon across the 5 containers, and you might have a little bit of sauce left over, which can just be divided again. As for garnish, I'm just going to be using a little bit of spring onion or scallion. You don't have to use that if you don't want to, and you can add anything else of your choice. But with all of that done, we are then left with these absolutely delicious teriyaki salmon meal preps. And again, here is the macros for the complete dish. I recommend allowing these to cool for about 20 minutes, and then we can place on the lids where they'll last in the fridge for up to 4 days, and you can also place these in the freezer for up to 3 months. Reheating is super simple as well, either do it in a microwave or place it back into a pan and have it sort of like a stir fry. But with all of that done, we can then dig in. That salmon is absolutely perfect. It's got a nice caramelization on the outside, and then that center is so juicy and literally just melts in your mouth. The teriyaki sauce is absolutely delicious, and then the rice and the vegetables obviously go really well, mixing that all through once it's heated up or eating it fresh like I am here. You can change these up as well. You can use different sides, different vegetables, even different salmon. I've done the teriyaki chicken, which is one of the first meal prep videos I did, so if you haven't seen that, make sure you go check that out. But overall, this is an absolutely incredible dish, and I wouldn't change a single thing about it. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button. It really helps me out, and consider subscribing. We are so close to 500,000. Thanks for watching.